Welcome to Stop the Noise, where small business specialists cut through the clutter to hone in on practical things small business owners can do to solve business challenges and move their business forward. In today's episode of Stop the Noise, host Brenda Thompson from the Better Business for Good Company and Kerry Ann Nelson from Operation Verve are talking with Sarah Higgins from the Helping Hands Group about how to let go of the tasks a business owner shouldn't be doing. You'll walk away with a 6-step process to identify and then let go of the tasks that a business owner should not be doing themselves. So first of all, just looking at the first question here was about, well, why should you not be doing it all yourselves? Why should we outsource or get other people to do stuff?
Thanks, Brenda. Look, fundamentally as business owners, there's the biggest reason to outsource is that because we cannot do it all unless we're prepared to accept a growth barrier. Regardless of how good you are at what you do, we all have the same number of hours in the week. And your business will only ever get as big as you can allow it to get if you are the only one that does absolutely everything. Sometimes we also need to outsource for legal reasons. There are things that we cannot legally do, and therefore we need to hand those tasks over to someone else. But for the most part, when we think about outsourcing as business owners, it's because we've hit that growth barrier, and that's why we need to look at outsourcing.
And I'm guessing it might not necessarily be outsourcing to a person. It may also be about systems and technology.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think you probably almost answered the second question at the same time, because the second question was about, do I need to? And I guess that's where, if you're happy being a one-man show who can never grow, then it's a bit of a swings and roundabouts thing. Although I think there might be some other reasons why you might want to outsource some stuff other than the growth factor. I'm sort of thinking about the things you actually hate doing or the things you don't do very well. Do you want to extend on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Look, sometimes when we look at do I need to outsource, it's an interesting question to ask. We do have clients or potential clients that come to us and say, look, I need to outsource, I'm too busy. And generally when we think about outsourcing, we think about putting another set of hands on the keyboard, another hand on the mouse. You're adding to the team and you're getting more done because there's more hands to do the work. However, sometimes that doesn't actually provide the right answer, because if your underlying systems and processes are not up to scratch, if the way the business is running is fundamentally chaotic, for want of a better phrase, bringing someone else in is just like adding more deck chairs onto the Titanic. You're not going to stop that ship from sinking. It's just more people are going down with you. So sometimes...
Kerry, I know that you would be able to relate to that so well. If you wanted to say something, you're allowed.
Oh, I just love that analogy. It's so funny. It's like, yeah, many hands make light work. Not so much. Not when you're making a mess like that. It's hilarious. I love the description there.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
So what are the kinds of things you can or should outsource to not have that just piling more deck chairs on the Titanic thing?
Yeah, your first question should always be, are my systems and are my processes up to scratch? So if adding more people to the chaos is just going to generate more chaos, then paradoxically, outsourcing is not the entire solution that you're looking for. You need to step back first, have a look at those systems and processes, and sometimes you can actually get to the point where you become so efficient that the need to add that extra hand on the keyboard or that extra hand on the mouse actually goes away for a little while. So sometimes outsourcing, as you alluded to in the first question, it's not necessarily adding more labor. It's finding the right person to introduce those systems and processes so that when you do add more people in, it's going to actually achieve what you want it to achieve.
And I'm guessing that that's going to be a significant part of your how to do this checklist when we get to that. The last question that I had here in the introductory questions is, so it makes absolute sense to do it. So why do so many business owners not do it? What stops them?
We find there's 3 main reasons why business owners don't outsource, or 3 main stumbling blocks that stop them from outsourcing: ego, fear, and budget. So ego is an interesting one. That's the, but only I can do it. I'm the only one that can do what I do. No, you're not. It is very, very unusual for there to be something that only you, out of the entire population of planet Earth, can do.
And I guess
Others might not do it exactly the same way you do it,
Yeah.
but we'll come back to that a little bit later.
Yeah. And I guess there's a kind of a professional development thing there as well. I mean, about bringing other people up to a point where they can do it better than you.
Absolutely. The second one is fear. It can be fear of handing over a part of your business to someone else. And let's face it, it's your baby. You love it, even when you hate it. And letting go of it, you know, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And the third thing can be budget. If you're looking at it the wrong way, outsourcing can be seen as an expensive thing to do.
Yeah, and that's really looking at the return on investment. And if you're sort of going, oh, I'm going to have to add this much to the monthly whatever bill, or this big expense up front, and you're not actually seeing the savings at the other end, then it's kind of like, no, I can't afford to outsource. Whereas
Absolutely.
frequently, perhaps you can't afford not to outsource. Absolutely. Okay, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask Kerry before I dive into this checklist, this little process that Sarah's going to walk us through?
I'm keen to hear the checklist, that's for sure. I guess maybe if we've got time, I'd love to hear a tiny little story of someone who Sarah has helped to overcome some of those obstacles, I guess. Is that a possibility, Brenda, or am I stretching?
Yeah, I think we'll have plenty of time. So do you want to, is that, we're putting you on the spot there, Sarah?
No, look, I can think of one off the top of my head.
Excellent.
A very typical example of what we see where the systems and processes become more important than that immediate another hand on the keyboard is your business that has gone from a startup to being more established. Because when we start, we all start this big, which means our sales are this big and our operations are this big. And what tends to happen is our sales and our client list goes to this big and our business becomes this big, but we forget about the operations, and operationally, we're still here. And when you're here, it's very typical for me to get, or when you've grown to here, it's very typical for me to get a client that comes in and says, look, we need help managing our leads and our marketing. They don't need another hand on the keyboard managing contacts in Outlook, numerous Excel spreadsheets, and the 101 bits of handwritten paper or Word documents that are floating around tracking the different bits and pieces. No, there's the perfect example of adding more deck chairs to the Titanic. If we join that chaos, we are not providing the assistance they truly need. What they need in that instance is a decent CRM package.
Yeah.
And we have had that situation where we've gone in, we found the right CRM, we've installed it. And yeah, they actually haven't needed those extra hands on the keyboard and the mouse for another 6 months yet, because they're doing what they're doing far more efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah. So it isn't necessarily, it's that whole, it might be outsourcing to more people, but you might also be outsourcing to better technology, or just technology at all if you don't have any, if you're not using technology systems in the first place. And there are so many affordable in the cloud technology solutions now. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so I think it might be time to actually start working our way through these. That concludes the first part of today's session. Now it's time to open up that checklist, where Sarah will walk you step by step through a 6-step process to identify and let go of the tasks that you should not be doing yourself.